Mr. Kunal Nandwani. He's co-founder and CEO for Utrade, and he's also the president for Chandigarh Angel Network. He's one of the founding member of Chandigarh Angel Network. If Kunal is a startup entrepreneur with technology, financial market, blockchain, electronic trading, and angel investing experience. So a lot of key areas goes to you, Kunal. And being a president of Chandigarh Angel Network, you are a key person in this region who has really working a lot for investment to the startups. That's a good thing. Apart from that, Kunal is also a good writer. He is author to 2 books. The first book was on blockchain, and the second one is on it is called Sociopreneur. So it is 0 to 1, and in fact it's a book where you can find how you can make social enterprises. That's a key area, and we would like to have some kind of workshop on this with you, Kunal, on a separate note. But today we have some separate agenda because we have a lot of startups joining us to understand what's inside the investor. So I would request my director and CEO STPI Next to set up the tone for this session, because this is not only a session, it is basically some guidance to the upcoming startups who are pitching us to STPI for funding in NGIS scheme also. So over to Subodh sir. So I think Kunal just so he got free. So sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ajay. It's wonderful to be back on a Neuron Speaks platform. I think in STPI we had created STPI Pulse platform, and then we asked all our Center of Excellence to specifically curate tracks of the interest with respect to their in each COEs. And with that, I think Neuron Speak third edition is a specific track where within STPI Pulse we're trying to look into various points through which startup ecosystem can be mentored and guided. And in that sense, I'm very I extend my warm welcome to Kunal Nandwani, because I had a lot of interactions with him when we were meeting for various discussions on Neuron. And I think, as Ajay has described, that today I'm also here to listen to your thoughts in terms of how startups can really get into the shoes of not into the shoes of VCs, I'll say, but get into the minds of VC. What are they really look forward to when they have to raise their first funds? I think from that angle, your input to so that startups are getting ready for receiving their first funds, right, from the agent community perspective, will be very, very important to hear from you, and probably all startup will be benefiting a lot. Where funding is always very, very challenging, and probably the biggest driver behind the success and failure of startups, especially the startups, if the startups are looking for scaling, right, and scaling very, very fast, right. The space in which we have positioned Neuron, and the Neuron, which is targeted to support AI startups, which is targeted to support IoT startups, or targeted to support AVG startups. I think this space where technology plays a very critical role, and all these technologies have a huge potential in terms of scaling up, right? So that it is important to convey the value proposition from startups perspective in terms of the scale in which the angel community will be very much interested in. And given your background that you have been investing in software and tech-based startups as well, primarily, and Chandigarh Angel is doing a very good role in the form of angel community, and also as a personally the way you are investing in startups, I'm sure startup will be able to learn a lot today in the session. The whole funding ecosystem during COVID times has seen rises in certain sectors. For example, EdTech sector, which was a recent news yesterday, has received a humongous amount of the funding already in last couple of months. And I think that's the reason, because when the new norm really happened, I think people realized that a lot of things can be achieved even if you're not, a lot learning can happen, a lot of businesses can emerge, right? And each challenges brings an opportunity. I think from that angle, whether it is edtech startups, whether it is communication startups, whether it is SaaS startups, I think they have seen huge potential unlocking for themselves because of COVID. Similarly, when we talk about various segments of where AI can be used, for example, right, or where IoT can be used. I mean, when we're talking about smart factories, when we're talking about smart cities, when we're talking about smart personal hygiene and smart personal health or smart homes, I think that's where I do see a lot of technological advancements happening, and that's where startups will see a lot of role to play. When we recently did a Raise event, which was a flagship event of Government of India, in Ministry of Electronics IT was co-host for that. We were able to get good startups to showcase, and a lot of these startups came from Chandigarh and Mohali area. So there's a strong potential in terms of the technology know-how within this region. And if within STPI and within Neuron, through guys like you, through people like you, through collaborators like you, and I think Kunal, to take this forward journey for startups, I think that's what we look forward to. So in this session, I'm personally here to listen to you, and I'm sure all startups will be able to learn a lot. And once again, thanks, Ajay, for bringing this session, especially targeting on a very, very important topic about funding. So look forward to having interaction. Look forward to the interaction. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir. And in fact, Kunal, a very single line objective for you, being an incubator and being a COE, and you are also part of our project management group. So as an incubator, we see investors भी हैं एक तरफ and startups भी एक तरफ हैं. Investors बोलते हैं हमें startups नहीं मिलते, startups बोलते हैं हमें funding नहीं मिलती है. So where is this gap? So we really want to look forward to you how we can have the startups and fund managers to come together and for a very energetic ecosystem. So over to you, Kunal.
Sure. Thanks, Ajay-ji. Thanks, Subodh-ji, for having me here. I'll share some things I know I've learned in the last 10, 20 years of investing on one side, raising for my own startups at one side, exiting some startups on one side, etc. So I have a little bit of experience, and through Chandigarh Angels Network, I had an opportunity to look at thousands of startups actually, and we ended up investing in about 30, 40 odd startups so far. So with that experience, I'm going to share certain things. I hope all the audience of this session find it useful. What I'm trying to do is next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll try to say try to demystify some things for you, so you follow and understand a few things, bust some myths if needed. There are a lot of myths that go around in the market. I want to make sure you understand to the core everything about funding and anything to do with the startup scaling and anything else you want to know. And then afterwards, I think we'll open up for Q&A, because I do want to answer the specific questions you might have. So without further ado, let me just start, okay? First thing, how do you all start? Or everyone comes up with an idea. An entrepreneur comes up with an idea first. Generally speaking, you have an idea. Let's say you know that future of mobility is electric. Next 5 to 10 years, I have no doubt petrol, diesel vehicles would be phased out. There is an opportunity in electric vehicles, for example, electric charging. Everything around it will change. There will be no petrol pumps 10 years later. Maybe it will all be electric. Let's say you have an idea that you want to do something in this space, okay? So first thing I want to say, as a startup entrepreneur, follow your heart. Do not do something just because somebody else has made money doing it. Do not do something because your story or Economic Times has published an article that, let's say, Flipkart has raised $10 million, or let's say somebody else has raised $100 million. You need to, as an entrepreneur, understand that it's a tough journey. Being an entrepreneur is very, very, very tough. There are proven stats and numbers out there that about 90% startups shut down in the first 3 years of operation. Do it because it's hard. It's not easy. People are not waiting for an idea. You need to, hence, all I'm trying to say is not to not be an entrepreneur, but be an entrepreneur for the right reason. It should be your inner calling. It should not be externally influenced decision. It should not be because somebody, a neighbor is doing it, a friend is doing it, or you read an article in the news. That's one. Because if your motivation is real, you want to solve a problem, you are truly motivated by it, it's coming from you inside, you are likely to work harder and you're likely to work longer. And that's what it's required in an entrepreneur, to have perseverance. In a country like India, it takes 5 to 10 years to build a business. And for those 5 to 10 years, you may get no press coverage, you may get no money. Are you willing to do it? This is what is needed in an entrepreneur to say. If the answer is yes, I will do it no matter what. I'm so passionate about solving this problem, or I'm so passionate about doing this because I feel this is how the world should be. Great answers. But if you think you are doing it just for money and every entrepreneur makes money, that's not the case. For every one Flipkart, there are a million failures behind. Remember that. Okay. Now you have an idea that you're truly inspired by. How do you take it forward? You take the idea, you share with a few people around. First thing I must tell everyone, do tell this in every startup talk that I do. Ideas alone mean nothing. If you think your idea is unique, you should patent it, you should not share it with anyone. I think you're wrong. I can give you tens of ideas which will all make $1 billion in the next 10 years. But it's not the idea that counts, it's the execution that follows. And it's whoever executes it better. And you can't hide your idea. Can Flipkart hide their idea? Can Ola Cabs hide their idea? Can Byju's hide their idea? Nobody can hide the idea. Once your product is there, it's available for everyone, and anyone can copy. And if they are able to execute faster, better than you, they deserve to win. Okay. So do not worry about your ideas. Ideas are okay to share. Do not worry if you think my idea is the whole thing. Idea is not the whole thing. The whole thing that follows is from the idea, what do you do with it? Okay. Now you have an idea, your own, from wherever you get it, you're truly inspired and you want to do it. Feel free to share it with people. First thing you need as an entrepreneur is to bring in some other team members, some co-founders, some sounding board, some people to validate the idea. For that, you can come to STPI, you can come to Neuron, you can come to some platforms that we provide here. You can come to Chandigarh Angels Network. We help with mentorship periodically and constantly. Reach out and just ask for feedback. And good or bad, sometimes it helps you validate faster than you can yourself. Some people have more experience in the space, and many times it can help. Now, somebody asked a question, co-founders, what kind of co-founders should I bring? Bring the co-founders. Let's say you are in an engineering school, which is likely to be the case out of the 50 people listening. Maybe many of you are graduate from engineering. What's a bad team is 5 people from same engineering class. You all think alike, your all background is alike. You need people with complementary skills. If you are good in engineering, you need somebody who's good in sales. If you are good in sales, you need somebody who's good in operations. If you are good in operations, you need somebody who's good in technology. Bring co-founders who bring complementary skills to you. Of course, trust is very important. How to find them? Meet them in these kind of events. NASSCOM, TIE, CII, CAN, STPI, many government initiatives. You meet a lot of network out, find people who are like-minded, with whom you can have integrity, with whom you can agree to disagree. It's just like finding a wife or finding a spouse. You need to be able to get on in spite of your agreements and disagreements, but they have to have complementary skills. And every startup needs a co-founder. No entrepreneur can do it alone. And one thing people say is that I'll have to give out my equity, share my equity. Remember, 100% of zero is a zero. If your idea stays in your mind and the company stays with you, never executes anything, it's worth nothing. 100% of zero is a zero. 1% of a large number is a large number. Flipkart, Snapdeal co-founders, when they exited, or Flipkart co-founder, when he exited, they owned less than 5% of the company, but it had become a $16 billion company by the time they exited, right? So in order to grow, you will have to give out equity. You will have to share with co-founders. Do not mind that. You should be interested in your dream, that you are able to execute, you are able to build your idea to reality, you are able to scale it to the world, etc. And for that, if you have to give away equity, it's okay. Now, you must have co-founders. Nobody can do without a co-founder. Everyone in the world, every startup has co-founders. Elon Musk has co-founders. Bill Gates has co-founders. Steve Jobs had co-founders. The only exception to the rule, which is not to be considered, is one exceptional guy called Jeff Bezos. He's the only one without a co-founder, but he's truly exceptional and he got lucky as well. So put him aside. You're not Jeff Bezos, most likely. If you are, we should talk offline or 20 years later. But otherwise, you must have co-founders, okay? Now, when you start, let's say I have an idea. I want to build electric vehicles. I should reasonably evaluate what can I do in this space. Today, I was speaking with someone this morning in one of the CAN mentorship programs. A person said, I want to build electric vehicles because that's the future. I said, sure. But one should see what you can achieve realistically. In electric vehicles, you need to invest a lot in supply chain, in technology, in designing the product, in distributing it, selling it. I said, can you do it all? And he or she was a graduate. He said, I don't know. So I said, you should not just day one try to be everything. Day one, see where you can create a value, where can you make a difference. Maybe don't go after the biggest or the sexiest business there, but find something smaller to start with. So Amazon day one did not start writing books or selling cloud services. Day one, they were just selling books online. That business grew. They built more product categories on side, and then they built other businesses on side. Day one, they did not start making Prime Video. Day one, they did not start going to the space, right? Day one, if you want to be in electric business, I was suggesting think about how you can have the better electric charging. All the cars that will come electric. So you have to understand the game. There's a game called poker. I don't know how many of you play or understand it, but it's very simple. I'll tell you an idea. If there are four players or six players playing poker, if you don't know who the fool on the table is, then it's you. Means you need to learn how the rules of the games are. So if you want to get into electric vehicles, you need to understand who's the big player. All the car makers can easily move to electric. They have lots of funds. All the Ola Ubers will move into electric. They have lots of funds. There are likes of Teslas coming who have lots of funds. You should play the game where you can compete, right? So the game you can possibly consider to compete, business you can possibly try to get into to start with, maybe electric charging units, maybe electric charging batteries. Small problem. How can you charge a car faster? How can you have a faster charging unit? Instead of it taking 2 hours, can you do it in 5 minutes? That's a problem you can take on if you have engineering skills. Can you find something else for people to do while they are charging it? What will they do in the electric charging station or the new petrol pumps of the future, which will be electric charging stations? Can you create peripheral services for them, like esports? Can they do betting with each other, or Dream 11, or other kind of games can they play? Can you do some reward system there? Can you build a Snapdeal kind of a model where if they give some time, some part of their attention to some mobile app, and then they get rewarded with some discount coupons? There are things you can do around it with the mobility changing. You don't need to go for the biggest and the toughest and the most expensive one, right? So that's an idea. Pick the battle you can fight. You can't fight all battles. You're not going to win. Rome is not built overnight. You start somewhere small, hope that it grows, and then you keep stepping up the value chain. You have the idea. You have convinced your co-founders. You have to sell like anything. You must be a great salesperson. If you can't sell, you will not succeed as an entrepreneur. Now that you've done it, how do you take this idea forward? The next step you have to do is convert your idea into a business plan. What is a business plan? Business plan just states out what is your idea, what is the problem you're solving, who is your client, who is your competition, why are you doing it, how will you do it, how much funds do you need, etc. These things, when you write down, they're in your mind. They're generally very muddled up. They're very cloudy. Sometimes you think, yeah, it's clear, it's not clear, etc. Better to write it out. When you write it out, it becomes clearer to you. And when you look at it, then you realize, yes, this was good. This is helpful. You write a business plan. You have a business plan. You have a few initial friends / co-founders with you. You have an idea. Now you need to start executing it. Now you need to hire a team to build a product or a service or whatever you need to do. And for that, you need funds. This is when funding world starts for startups. This happens typically 3-6 months later from the date you have an idea. In that time, you build the idea, you validate it, you talk to customers, you talk to people, you bring co-founders, you write a business plan. 3 to 6 months, roughly speaking, that's the time it should take. Now you want the first round of funding. Let's say you want to import. The day one, you're not going to build the fastest electric charging unit. Day one, maybe you will figure out what's available where. And today, given if you start, given it's not publicly available everywhere, the electric charging units, but there are some electric vehicles out there. Maybe what you'll do is you'll build an application for electric cars to figure out where they're, based on their GPS, they can identify where the nearest electric charging unit could be. And maybe if you are in Chandigarh Tri-City, you deploy 3, 4, 5 of them. Let's say to do this, you need 10, 20, 30 lakh rupees. Let's say that's the amount you need. How will you get that? That's where comes the first round of funding. And it comes from either you have the money yourself, you have earned before, or you have a rich family and you can afford it. Great. If you don't, then comes the round from, this is the first round of funding called Friends, Families and Fools, FFF. You need to have friends who have money. By the way, that's a good skill to look in co-founders. If you don't have a rich dad, you need a co-founder who has a rich dad or a rich uncle who can fund. Initial money always comes from family or internal sources. A brother, cousin, uncle, somebody. Friends, family, and fools is, I mean, anybody who just believes in it, right? Very rarely people would at idea stage, but generally speaking, this is a formal, officially created term, FFF funding, friends, families, and fools. Imagine you are able to raise money from some of them. And by the way, this money may be FFF, and there are some grants also I didn't mention, like Neuron has come up with a grant. Government has many other initiatives. Some banks have responsibilities to give startup loans without taking any collateral. So those things could also help. Or there may be some scholarships and grants from your university where you're studying, etc. So you bring first 10, 20, 30 lakhs, you build your first product. That's what the first product you build. You import an electric charger, or you do whatever you're doing. And the first product you roll out in the market, some clients start using it. You need early adopters. When they start using it, you start getting the feedback. Yeah, it works, it's good, but this, or you can do it better, etc., etc. Then you slowly start to scale, and you make your customer pay for it. If you can make a customer pay, that's a great thing, because client revenue is the best thing you can use for funding your company growth. If sometimes some people make great products which sell like hotcakes, and they themselves give enough money that you never need to raise. There are bootstrapped companies who have never ever had to raise any round. And my recommendation, even as an investor, but more as an entrepreneur, is if you can live without raising money, don't raise money. Some businesses are bootstrapped, they do very well with the client revenues, but you need to constantly create value for your clients. So in order for your revenues to scale, I'll name a couple of billion-dollar companies out of India. Zoho CRM company out of South India, Zerotha stockbroker out of Bangalore. Great companies. They never raised any money. They never had to. Okay, as an example. But for many businesses, you have to raise. You will lose some money in the first 1 to 3 years in order to build your platform or your product or service, whatever you're doing. So then after the friends family round, you achieve some traction. You have some clients, you have some product, you have some clients paying for it, but it's not enough for you to scale. That's when you go to the next level of investors, which are called angel investors. This is typically speaking round number 2. Angel investors are typically individuals, high net worth individuals who have, who are doing something okay in their life. Many of them are generally entrepreneurs themselves. And there are angel networks like Chandigarh Angels Network, Indian Angels. There are many angel networks. You can Google it up. When you go to them, they are the first level of professional investors who invest, typically speaking, anything between, let's say, 20 lakhs to 5 crore rupees, depending on whom you go to, etc. Now, when you raise from them, remember, they are generally not very involved in your business. They are like, they'll take 10, 20% equity. In every round of funding, typically speaking, you will or you should give away 10 to 25% of equity. That's a thumb rule. I'm not saying you can't do away with giving away 5. I'm not saying you can't give away by giving away 30. But generally speaking, 10 to 25% equity goes away in every round. In angel round also, if you raise 1 crore, your valuation may be 5 crores. If you are doing 50 lakhs of revenue or something, then you will give away about 20% equity. 1 crore over 5 crores is 20%. That's the equity you will have to give to angel investors. These angel investors may do some introductions for you. Some of them may get involved. They generally do not take board seats, but they will just help you from outside. But you have to still run your business and scale it from 50 lakh sales, let's say, to 5-10 crore of sales in the next 1 to 2 years. When you do that, that's when you go to the next round of funding, which is called venture capital. round funding investing, which is called a Series A. Series A investing is typically amount is between 5 crores to 20 crores. So that is about $1 million or less than $1 million to $3 million or so. That's a typical round. And again, in that round, you will give away 20-25% equity to the venture capital firm who's investing in your business. And with that money, you will grow your business to another level. Either you will become in the next 1-2 years very profitable and scaling very fast. If it works, great. Otherwise, it will take you to another level of growth in a year or two later. From 10 crore revenue, you now move to 20, 30, 40 crore revenue. Then you raise another round that's called Series B, then Series C, then Series D. So this is how Series A, B, C, D rounds work. Every 1-2 years, you grow 5 times of your revenue or user base, depending on the business you are in. You may or may not focus on profitability, depending on whatever your VC wants. But then with every round, when VC gets involved, remember, VC stays heavily involved. You may, VC will stay with you. And if you don't do well, VCs have a right to fire you as well. From your own dream, from your own company, you may have seen some movies in which it happens. So remember, when you bring a VC on board, you don't fully control everything. You lose control. But as long as you're delivering, as long as your market is growing, as long as your company is working well, they will be happy. They'll be your best friends. The day it's not is when you see the true colors of anybody in the world, any investor, right? So VC's job is to help you. They will take a board position for sure, and they will take a lot of rights that, if you don't perform, they have a right to fire you, for example. But that's okay. You should not worry about, because if you don't perform, you should be fired anyways, I guess. So this is how funding works, from idea to co-founders, to business plan, to initial traction, and then friends, family round, to angel round, and then you go to VC's round, right? And then after a few VC rounds, if your business becomes profitable, then you can do an IPO, so your VC gets an exit, or you sell to a bigger company like Flipkart sold to Walmart, and then your VC gets an exit, etc. Those things happen. Or if you want to run it forever, you can choose to run it forever and never exit. This is how the funding works. One thing I want to address here, which may be relevant for you. So how to do the valuation? It's not an art, it's not a science. Eventually, the valuation is driven off what do you need to raise. So essentially, the idea is, if you, for example, you have to make a business plan. You have a plan that next 1 to 2 years, how much money you're going to need to scale to whatever level you want to. For that money, if you, let's say, want to raise 5 crores, my recommendation, if you need 5 crores, ask 10, because there are buffers you need. Sometimes it takes longer to achieve what you want. So always raise more than you need. One. Second, valuation can be driven by anything. Essentially, in every round, thumb rule is you will lose 10 to 25% equity. So hence, a valuation should work from that. Otherwise, don't worry about valuations. You will get advisors or VCs helping you out, or you should have independent. If you are negotiating with a VC or an angel investor, feel free to have independent mentors or someone who can help you and guide you on your side of the pitch, your side of the story, to validate that, yeah, it's a fair deal or it's too unfair for you. Generally speaking, investors also don't want unfair deals, because they still bank on you to run the company. And if you get an unfair deal, and then you will lose interest in the future, and that ends up making the deal not worthy for you. And if you quit, then they have a problem. So obviously they try to do fairer deals, but yes, there are still some terms, some things that can be negotiated. So have some advisor on your side as often as you can. One. Secondly, how do you find the investors? How do you find the VCs? So my suggestion is, go with a qualified introduction. If you just send them an email on their website or just do a LinkedIn, it helps. Do some research on the guys. Angel investors or VC investors get hundreds of emails. If they send you an email that we heard about you in your story or somewhere or on STPI website, and we want to connect and learn what you're doing, it's very impressive. Understand, they're just trying to learn about your business. They do it to hundreds and thousands of companies. They'll be investing only in one a month. Okay. So remember, if you send a cold email, it's likely to be unanswered, because they will be getting hundreds of such cold emails, very possibly. If they reach out to you, even then it's not a confirmed funding. It's just that they are looking to listen to you. If my suggestion, if let's say you get an email from Sequoia and they say, want to talk to you, learn about your business, and see if we can invest. Don't respond for 4 days. Play hard to get. They should feel that you are a busy person, you are genuinely busy building business, and 4 days later say to them, okay, we'll speak next month. Sorry, this month is really busy with the business. That's okay. Play it carefully, okay? This is a very careful game to be played. If you want to learn more on this, we can have offline chat later. But net, PC speak with lots of entrepreneurs. They don't invest in all of them. So when you're speaking with them, it's great. They will speak to many of you to learn how the space works. And you are the most passionate, most knowledgeable person of the space because you are giving your life to all the time to the space, right? To the business you are in. So if they are speaking with you, do not assume they will understand everything or they will care for everything. They are there just for a transaction. One. Secondly, if you are looking for an introduction, go to the right people, i.e., let's say you are in fintech and let's say you reach out to Excel Ventures and Excel doesn't invest in fintech. I'm just making it up. I don't know if they do or not. Then don't reach out to the investors who don't. So Google up the people who work there, LinkedIn them, check them. What do they talk about the space? They generally blog about the spaces they are interested in. Follow them. And if they're interested in the space you are in, then reach out to them. And then if you are not going to get a reply to a cold email, you must be able to find someone who knows someone who can introduce you to them. Qualified introduction goes like anything. So essentially, for example, if you are in STPI Neuron, you ask Ajay sir, hassle him and say, I need to meet, let's say I'm making up, Manish Johar, who knows that guy on LinkedIn connected with Sequoia's principal or partner. Get that qualified intro. Ajay will happily connect you with Manish. Manish will happily connect with the next guy. And the next guy will definitely make sure that you get a meeting or a call. After that, it's on you. It's your pitch, right? These are some of the things I can talk about investing. One last thing I want to say, and then we'll open for questions. I'm conscious of time here. I want to give more time to your specific questions. One last thing I want to say is that make your pitch very focused. Understand that do not complicate things in front of investors. Simplification is everything. Do not talk about every feature of your product or whatever your competition is doing. Try to simplify things, right? And for that, if you want to look at the pitch decks, Chandigarh Angels Network has some template pitch decks on our website. Look it up. They are damn simple. They just tell the story. Google this up, Airbnb pitch deck on which they raised at $1 billion valuation. Amazing pitch deck, 10 slides, talks everything, less text, simple image, simple one line away. Nobody has to think twice what's going on. Don't overcrowd the slides. Don't overspeak. Speak slowly. Talk to the point. These are some of the things you must do in developing your investment pitches and giving your pitch to those people. And that's that. I was thinking of one last thing I can tell you. I think that's it. This covers it. Simplify your pitch. Probably that was the last point. These are some of the things I can talk about investments. I hope it makes sense what I've said. Maybe if anybody has any questions, we can open to that. Ajay ji, does that sound okay?
Yeah, perfect. So I think very elaborated pitch you did, right from idea to co-founding, then execution, then FFF model, the family, friends, and food. This is a prevalent model to start your startup. So one thing that I want to ask you is, Kunal, I am a first-time startup who is going to pitch to a investor. So it is inside the mind of the investor. How are you going to evaluate me?
Yeah. So this was the last thing I was going to say. I'm sorry I didn't say. This is an important part I should have covered and I missed. And I was thinking I missed something, but that was it. Thank you. Thanks for the question. So by the way, guys, before I answer that, I have written a book on how startups can scale and focus on social impact, as well as how these funding rounds work. So I'm putting it in chat. It's on Amazon. Feel free to look it up if you find it relevant. Now, coming back, the idea is whenever you want something from the other person, you should understand what shoes are they wearing, what is it that they want. If you can get into their brains, if you can get into their shoes, you can probably pitch much better. So when you go to an investor, don't go and say so right now it's very easy for me to say what I want to say. It's very hard for me to say, by thinking what you may want to hear. Right now, I get tired in public speaking because I have to think what other people may want. It's more hard. It's harder for me. It's easier for me to just come out and say anything I want, right? So right now, I've tried to simplify things for you. So hopefully you can follow, and hopefully I did an okay job at that. When you talk to investors, think about what they're going through. Let me tell you about investors. Firstly, what do investors look for in startups? Number one, they look for broadly 4 to 5 things. Number one thing is, how big is your market today and how big it can be in the future? Focus on the market. In growing markets, everyone grows. As an example, in shrinking markets, nobody makes money. I'll give you Indian examples. E-commerce is a growing space. It's still not done. E-commerce, you still have shops out there where you go and buy some clothes or shoes or food or vegetables. All of this is going to go online. In the next 10 years, do you imagine you'll ever go out for these things? Most likely not. So e-commerce is a big space and a massively growing space. Hence, only in the last 10 years, all the money poured into the space, and it grew to such a levels, right? And Amazon and Walmarts and Reliances are gonna drive the space, right? Big space, growing space, not a shrinking space. Shrinking space is what? Telecom. Last 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there were 33 telecom companies in India. Right now, 3 are left. Third one will not survive. Only 2 will be left. It's not a growing space. If you are building softwares for telecom companies, Jio and Airtel are the only 2 potential clients, and Jio may build it in-house, or Airtel may not have money to buy anything from you. So frankly, this is a shrinking market. Nobody invests in a shrinking market. Nobody would have invested in the last 5 years in a telecom software space, as an example. So number one, how big is your market today? It may be small. Now look at the small markets. Electric vehicle is small market today, but will be very big in the next 10 years. That's why Tesla's valuation is over the roof. Internet of Things, cryptos, what else? EdTech. EdTech has grown already in the last year. Many esports, many spaces are small today, but they will become very big in the next 5 to 10 years. It's easy for me to look back and say 2010 to 2020 what happened. But what I enjoy trying to predict is 2020 to 2030 what might happen. And I try to blog about it and come up with some ideas that may or may not come true. So you should have a big market, and you should have an interesting market and a growing market. That's the number one requirement for investors. One. Second, they look at you as a team. How good you are as a team. Do you have co-founders? Yes. If you don't have a co-founder, you'll not get investors. Period. Unless you get lucky somewhere. No investor invests in a single person company. You need a co-founder. You need at least 1. 2, 3 is also okay. Whatever you can get away with. Okay. Second is team. How committed you are to what you are doing. How motivated you are. How much driven you are. You'll be surprised to know that great entrepreneurs can make even bad business ideas or plans work because they adapt. But bad entrepreneurs will screw up the business plans. So it's about the team. If the team is great, at the end of the day, investors back a person. They back a team. If I have to invest in Tesla, I'm backing Elon Musk. If I'm investing in Amazon, I'm backing Jeff Bezos. I don't care if he makes money from cloud services or by going to space or by running Prime Video or by selling books online, right? He will figure it out. He's a smart guy. So second thing is the team. How strong are you? How committed you are? How all in you are. No part-time jobs. You cannot have a part-time job and be doing a startup part-time. You'll never get investment. That does not work. You should be all in. It's like, in the circus, they say you should net at the bottom, safety net. If you have a safety net, you'll fall. Don't have a safety net, nobody falls, because everybody takes their work seriously in the circus when they're jumping from one place to another. So team is the second thing they will look at. Third thing they will look at is competition and market landscape. So what's happening in your market? Is there regulatory challenge? Are there regulatory challenges? Is it evolving regulation? Like India has suddenly shut down TikTok, or India, if you're a Chinese company trying to scale in India and raise money for that in US, it will not happen because the regulatory burden is there. Who are you competing with? Are you competing with Microsoft, Facebook, Google? Microsoft, it's okay. Everyone will back you. Google, Facebook, maybe not. So who is your competition? What's happening in the market? That's the third thing people will look at, how it's evolving. And fourth thing they will look at is your unit economics. When do you become profitable? Can you become profitable in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years or not? Example, Paytm has not become profitable yet, and it's a liability on its investor. It can keep raising whatever money, it can keep asking for whatever valuation, but it has no business model. In payments, they never made money. Payment banks, they never made money. Paytm Mall, they shut down. Now they are saying we'll start the lending business. For the last 10 years means all they did not work. So unit economics, can you start making money soon enough or when you choose to? You should have a choice. Investors want that. If it's always a cash burn money and then you have to burn more than your competitor, it's not something that investors back easily. Most of the times they don't. Okay. These are the 4 things that matter to investors. Let me repeat. Number 1 thing I said is a market, how big it is today, how big it can become. Number 2, I said team. Number 3, I said competition and market landscape, regulations, etc., etc. And number 4 is the unit economics. Can you become profitable? Can you sell at a higher than your production price? These 4 things are broadly what investors look at. But let me tell you one thing which is counterintuitive, which is that, number 1 reason why startups made it big or very big in the world is not any of these 4. It's a 5th thing, which is a luck factor, which is called timing. What time you are in, what cycle you are in. Nobody knows. If I told you in 2008, you'll be sleeping at a stranger's house or riding a stranger's car, it was the creepiest idea. But 2008 was a crisis of after Lehman, the global crisis. And after that, what happens in the economic downturns is people want discounts. And that's when Groupon grew. That's when Uber grew. That's when Airbnb grew. Otherwise, those were the creepiest ideas of their time. In 2008, I would have just said, what the hell? It doesn't make sense. But it suddenly started making sense in due course. They were the downturns. These were the cycles. Today, e-commerce is a bad idea. 2008 was the right one when Flipkart and Snapdeal got around. And 2005 was a bad one as well, because you would have shut down. So being too early or too late is what matters. And you don't know at point in time. It's just one of those things which is driven by luck. A lot of stars need to be aligned for you to succeed, that you don't control. But the biggest companies that have been formed, look at Facebook, look at WhatsApp, they had some timing, external incentive, external market wave that they rode, which they did not know or predict. For example, WhatsApp was made a year before iPhone was launched. But without iPhone, WhatsApp made nowhere. Nokia, remember Nokia smartphone? It was not smart at all. So that's the reason, but nobody can time. Nobody can say 2020, what cycle are we in? What will happen in 2025? It's only 5 years later that I'll be able to tell you 2020 to 25. This was reasonably obvious, but today it's not. So it's a timing that actually makes the biggest difference, which not many people appreciate or understand. But that's not in your hand. The other 4 things are focus on a market. Number 1, start with a great motivation. Be very inspired by it internally. Then focus on a big market or a growing market. Build a great team. Focus on understand your competition landscape, who's doing what. And then lastly, focus on unit economics. You get these things right, hopefully, you will get the funding and the growth that you need. So I hope, sir, I've answered your question.
Perfect. I think this will be very helpful for the upcoming startups to pitch into the investors. So one question from Mr. Raj is, will an idea and business plan be enough to go to the investor?
Rarely they invest in business plans. They want traction. A professional investor will want traction. So you should leave your job, get into it, invest some money of your family or from somewhere and show that it can work. So they need market traction, market adoption, business validation. This alone, generally, not many people invest or any professional investor invest in the startup idea.
So I think you need to have some kind of prototype and
prototype, client paying for it, client using it, client adopting it, some validation. Yeah.
Okay. And the other question is, how much is too much? Meaning, in case we are starting, how many people should start together ideally, especially in case of equity?
So 2 to 4 is the right number. Minimum 2, max 4. Above 4, it's hard. Housing.com, I've seen. 3 is okay. 2 to 4. Okay. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Between 2 and 4 is the right number, I think.
Okay, and can you give some kind of insight? What kind of equity these co-founders should have?
So the easiest is to equally split, but okay, everyone may not be equally contributing. Mm-hmm. So frankly, I think you should see who's contributing how much, and sometimes maybe that it's your idea, you are the one pushing it, but then somebody else comes along and he's contributing more than you do, then he should get more equity. So easiest is, let's say you are 3 co-founders, ideally 33% each. Okay. But if you think that you have put in more, you are putting capital, you are doing more, or somebody else is doing more, you may say 50, 25, 25. Again, no hard science, whatever you can negotiate, but keep it fair. They should be incentivized. One last thing on equity, do not give away equity on day one. Split it over 5 years. Means that if, let's say, you and I are co-founders, we both get 50-50, assume you agree on that, then my 50 should not happen that today I started, I join, I get 50, and tomorrow I leave, I still have 50. That will make no sense. So the way to do it is you split that equity. It's called a concept called vesting. Vesting means that if I stay 5 years, then I'll get 10% every year. If I leave
Okay.
after first year, I'll only get 10%, and the rest 40 will go back to you or to the company. So the vesting process should apply. At least it takes 5 years to validate a business idea in India or to scale it to a sustainable level. So go for 5 years vesting. It will apply to you and your co-founders all.
Perfect. And one more question, counter question on this is, suppose we two are the co-founders, and you brings all the money and I brings all the technical knowledge. So in this case also we should have the equal amount of equity, because I am not bringing any money.
No, if the other person is only bringing money. So let's take an example. You are going to run it for 5 years. The other guy is only bringing money, let's say 50 lakhs of initial round. So let's say your company is valued at, I don't know, at the initial round at 2 crores. Let's say you value it somehow. 50 lakhs will mean it's about what, 25% of equity goes to the investor. If it's his money, he gets 25. If he's bringing somebody else's money, then on that 25%, give him 10% commission for bringing that money. But you don't need to give him equity beyond a point. No, in that case, if one person is bringing only money one-off, give him some incentive for bringing that money. That might be 5 to 10% of the money he brings in. So if he brings 25 lakhs, give him equity worth 2.5 lakhs more. So out of 2 crores valuation, maybe he gets 10% or 1%, whatever it is.
Perfect. So any other question, please write in the chat box.
There is a question.
Yeah.
I can read. So how can a B2G startup present its business model, business to government? So number one, you must understand that business to government are very, very tough businesses to run. Generally speaking, you rely a lot on governments to do what they're meant to do, which doesn't happen in many countries. No disrespect to anyone. So be very careful in that business, because these are very hard to manage businesses. But your business model is still, why will government buy from you? Government will buy from you because you have a product, because it's competitive. Government also has a acquisition process. They also have a very competitive marketplace of their own. I forget what it was called. And they also have tons of choices. So you still need to build a product that suits the government, meets their criteria, regulations, is pricing terms are acceptable to them, product is somehow acceptable in terms of quality and price point and everything. So, your business model is still to sell to government, but you need to have a very strong reason why government will buy. So if you are, for example, if you're selling stationery to government, I don't think it's a startup that will scale beyond a point. You can't raise on that. But let's say you have figured out how to burn the stubble that's causing all the problem in North India. So if you found a way where you can take the stubbles of the farmers and manage it in a biodegradable way or a sustainable way, then governments will pay you for that. And then yes, and if you have a unique machinery or process of doing it, then government can pay you for that. But then you need to talk about what will you do with it? One, how will the government buy? Why will they buy? How will you sell? So this is a full business model that you can still document. I think it's still documentable.
Perfect.
Okay.
So the Raj has again asked you. So he said earlier, he asked if you have an idea and a business plan, should I go to the investor? You said you need to have some kind of traction also. So what kind of traction will be good enough? Any datum for that?
So hard to say, varies. It's very hard to specify, but more the better. So more number of clients, more number of revenues, more number of downloads, more number of users, more amount of revenues that they're paying you, more profitable, more the better. But I do not know. It depends which business you are in. For some things, like Foxconn is a supplier of Apple. For them, one client is enough. Apple is making them billionaire because Apple is trillionaire, right?
Right.
So it depends which business you are in, which client you have, what kind of business products you have. So it depends. I can't specify what traction, but more the better.
And Himalaya Dua has asked, how can we get a co-founder? I think you specified in your pitch. You can again reiterate it.
Yeah. So I think to get co-founder, there are 40 people in this chat room. I think talk to them.
Right.
Network around, ask in your network, go to LinkedIn, go meet people. Obviously, 2020 is a bit hard one because of COVID, but otherwise, there are a lot of events that are done by TIE, NASCOM, STPI, CAN. Many organizations do many events to promote this. So go to such places, look for people, the kind of people you need. Let's say you need a marketing person, or you need a technology person, or you need a salesperson, but build trust with them in due course. You'll need to spend good time before you decide to work with them, and they will have to decide to work with you. So you must have a very compelling sales story. You must be able to convince them to work with you, and then you should be able to trust each other. So, but it's a process. You need to go and, like they say, kiss many frogs before you find the Prince Charming.
Okay. So one more question is, I have three co-founder, including me, to manage all the stuff, but none of us has enough money with us or family to give it a kickstart. Then what should we do to find money? Because fools are not easy to find. So
So good question. I think given I'm the speaker, I can also say almost whatever I like. So one of the things I can tell you is, again, it's a joke, but if your father is a poor man, it's your destiny. But if your father-in-law is a poor man, that's your stupidity. So, so, so you've got the wrong co-founders with you. You should have found the richer ones. But anyways, keeping that apart, forget the fools. So there are some other grants out there. Some banks are meant to give out loans to startups without collateral. So you can try that out. There are some government initiatives. Startup India has some initiative. Neuron has its initiative where they are paying. They are also investing in some companies, taking some equity. There are many such initiatives you can try. There are some business plan competitions that go around from IITs and IIMs that you can consider. Other than that, early stage, maybe one other thing, if you're doing something great, depending on what product you're trying to build or what service you're trying to create, get some client advance. Sometimes clients are so pissed off with their current suppliers that they're willing to pay someone to sort out their problem. Maybe a
right,
client pays you an advance and you can use that money to build it up.
right.
Many good salespeople do that. So these are some of the thoughts I can have. Otherwise, I don't know. I really don't know.
Perfect. And how important is marketing in overall process? Should we focus more on marketing to acquire customers?
Of course. So look, unfortunately, it takes long to build a product or a service. So parallelly, marketing has to go hand in hand. So, and unless you have a product like iPhone, which is damn hard to build and have that a great product, which takes decades, it's not that people will come to you just for the quality of your product, right? If you're otherwise you are in a competitive market where every client has so many opportunities or so many competitive second best alternatives where they can go to. So you have to be able to do marketing and sales, and yes, you will need them to acquire customers, assuming you are selling to individuals or corporates, or depending on whom you're selling to, you'll need accordingly the sales or marketing people to reach out to them. Or if it's online, then it's got to be digital marketing. Marketing is very crucial because at the end of the day, if you are able to build a product, great story, great everything, but you are not able to sell, it doesn't work. If you don't have customers, it doesn't work. They say sales fix everything. If you have sales, then you can fix everything. If you're not able to sell, it's worth nothing, right? So you have to be able to sell. And in order to do that, marketing and sales are the mechanisms to reach out to your clients.
Perfect. One more question is, what is the role of marketing in startups and how it is different from marketing strategies used by brands like Nike and Coca-Cola? So
Very different.
marketing in a
Yeah.
startup and marketing in a big company, it's altogether different chapters.
It's a completely different space because imagine Nike sells, what does Nike sell? Nike will sell, or Coke will sell a dream, or they will sell a celebrity. They have another level of budgets, but everyone knows who's Nike, who's Coke, what do they do, right? For your startup, nobody knows who you are, what your company does. So for you selling, you will not be able to do this, have similar marketing budgets. You'll not be able to reach out to that many millions of people via television or internet or digital marketing. So you'll have to really pick what to do with your limited resources, whom to target, how to target them, and how to get them in, right? So very different. The marketing for larger companies versus smaller ones is very different. You will be very focused. You will be very targeted towards your target clients. You'll be not making it as fancy as others do, but you will be focusing on their pain points. And if you can solve their customers' pain points, then they're likely to take your product or service.
So I think we are done with questions. Any other question? Yes.
There's one last question that has come in. I
Yeah.
just read.
As an investor, if the co-founder pitches to you, have two other businesses running and are profitable, they are older than 5 years and now want to raise money, will it be easy for them, or will it look like they're not as invested?
They're not as invested. In any professional investor will come in if you are all in. All in means you should have everything to gain or everything to lose if your business works. It will not work that, let's say, we had a pitch recently. Somebody came from a school and we are doing a bunch of schools very well, but now we are looking to raise for a technology platform that will scale across schools. So I said, are you willing to give up your current schools to get out of it and focus just on this? They said, no, that's my butter. That's my plan B. You can't have a plan B. You should not have a plan B. All in, you make everything or you lose everything. That's how it should be. So if you have a backup, it's not a good thing. And if your businesses are doing well, then you should do it with your own money. Don't come to investors, because investors will not easily buy the story. They want you to be all in. Okay, so leave your business and come in, let somebody else run it. That's okay. But you will have to show that your skin is in the game. It's not that you're here just for investors' money to experiment with your things and never put anything from your own pocket. You'll have to go all in from your side. Your skin has to be in the game.
Okay. So I think the other thing that investors see, if you have a plan B, they understand that plan A is going to fail.
Correct. You can't accept in your mind. In your mind, your plan A is everything, and it has to
Your plan
succeed.
A is everything, and should be passionate to go with a plan A. That's very
Exactly.
important.
That's it. That's it. All in, everything for plan A, no plan B.
And investor also see, if you fail, you have a skin in the game.
And
Because,
and one last thing I must tell you, that investors that invest, as angel investors or even VCs, I'll tell you the odds. Out of 10 investments that they make, 5 go to zero.
okay.
2, 3 or 4 will go to maybe 1x or 2x or 3x returns. Means that if I put in, let's say, 10 lakhs, I'll only get 20 back or 10 back or 30 back. 5 of them will go to zero. But we are all looking for that one which may become 10 to 20 times, which will become
Right.
a multi-bagger, a multiple X return. One Paytm, one Flipkart. That's what we are all looking for. So investors know. Investors are okay if they know you have a likelihood of failure, even after investing. Funding is not a sign of success. Your business is a sign of success. If you're able to sell and scale, that is your sign of success. Funding only gets you from point A to point B. It's only a short-term fuel that you get. But after that, the business has to become self-sustaining, right? So investors know that even after they invest, it doesn't mean that you will be successful. Sequoia's, Excel's best VCs in the world, they lead to dramatic and the worst startups, and they don't go anywhere after a point, right? Very few only make it to the top. So just remember, your business has to eventually work. Yeah.
One thing more that I want to ask you is, I've interacted with a lot of startups, and I find that they're very possessive with their equity. Even if they are getting the right guidance, the right investor, they're still very possessive for their equity. Is this the scenario in India, or it's all over the world?
I think it's human nature. Somehow, in time, especially in this current capitalism, post-industrial era age, we've become more possessive of our rights and the things we should get and we should keep, but we've become less responsible towards others, I guess. So we become more selfish in due course, and we become more possessive in due course. I think it's globally. Otherwise, also people feel that I should not give away equity, and I've tried to tell in my earlier talk today that 100% of zero is a zero. You may make nothing with 100% equity, but 1% of $1 billion is still $1 million.
Right.
So figure out if you want to give equity or not. Don't be possessive of equity
So
or
I
your
think
idea.
as a startup, you should always feel that if you're getting the right environment, or if you're getting the right guidance and right market access, then you should not shy away with sharing the equity. And the one question that audience has asked you, apart from electric vehicle, which is
Yes, so so I'm sharing a blog where I put out the 10 ideas I think which will make $1 billion in the next decade.
okay.
Let me share it. I'm trying to find it. I'll put it in here. And guys, anyone, if you want to ever connect, do reach out. No problem. I'll share my details here on Twitter and LinkedIn. Feel free to connect wherever you like.
Yeah, and anybody wants
so-
to connect with Kunal, even you can reach out to Neuron also. We will be happy to
Yes.
coordinate that. And you can
Yes.
get in touch with him directly also. He's a very humble person and will help you out in what best manner he can do it.
Yes. So I've sent you, guys, I've shared my blog, LinkedIn, and Twitter. On my blog, the first link, I've put out a blog on $10 billion startups ideas. Let me find it if I can, so you don't have to search for it. Otherwise, you'll have to do a little bit of work finding it. Let me see if I can find it for you. Then you can just look at it. Some ideas I believe may work. 10 guaranteed $1 billion startup ideas. I got it. Okay. I've put it in the chat here. Hope you can find it interesting.
Perfect.
But these are
So
focused on social impact.
guaranteed idea to become $1 billion startup.
Guaranteed, sir. My guarantee right now. 2020, if 2030 it doesn't happen, we can bet anything. Now, I don't know who's going to do it.
Okay.
Right? That I don't know.
Perfect.
Like I said, ideas are for free. It's the execution that counts, right?
Execution, that is more important. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a great session with you, Kunal. It's a lot of learning.
Thank you.
In this session.
Sure.
Subodh sir, you are there?
Sure.
Let me check if Subodh sir is also.
Yeah.
Actually, he is not in a room.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
DG sir के पास गए हैं.
Okay. No issues. Okay. So Kunal, I think it's a great session.
Sure.
And it can help our startup really to think in a line of an investment and a real growth. And the last line from you is how much hard work is important for a startup to grow. If you have to rate from 1 to 10, how much number you will give it to it?
So I think number one, I think hard work alone is overrated. What you need is hard work and smart work. Smart work is that you need to be smart about it. Hard work and smart work is the only thing you can do. Hard work and smart work, rating 10 out of 10. You need to be smart, you need to work hard. There's no shortcut to success.
Exactly. So on that note, we are very thankful to you for your time. And in times to come, we will have your separate session for how we can have a big social entrepreneurships. That's very important area. And I would encourage everyone to go through your blog for 10 big ideas for billion. In fact, I myself will go through it and try to find out what can be done. And I will encourage startup to work on that. And probably then can fund them. That's also a passion from your side.
Yes, of course.
Perfect. Thank you, Kunal. Thank you for this nice session. And we'll meet soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all our audience and my team for coordinating this session. And it is fantastic. We had a great session with Kunal. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.